Hello, welcome to Brett's blog. I'm excited for today's post. We are in the middle of this foundational series that I've explained I'm trying to lay down as a base for what's to come in the next months and hopefully years. The last little series of 3 or 4 video posts was on the criminal justice system, and I explained why we prefer to call it or identify it as the prison industrial complex. And this little short series is about truth in 3 words: truth in justice, or the role that truth does or does not play in the justice system. And I don't have a lot of time to really expand on issues in the blog, so if I'm going to share the next 2 posts specifically, are actually taken out of my book, 825 Days. And so I'm going to use them to make a point here on the blog regarding this series of Truth in Justice. This story that I'm about to share with you is out of part 3 in my book, where I talk about the trial, which begins with jury selection and some motions and ends, of course, with my acquittal of these white-collar charges last October 2015. So I don't think I need to lay much more of a foundation. Let me just say that if you are the type of person who consumes a lot of news, and so you're up on current events, and you know who in your community or around the country or even around the world is being accused of crimes, and you know the serial killer and over here, and you know the rapist over there, and you know the bank robber down in this community, and whatever, you should understand that those, the reason that you know so much about those is because DAs and PAs around the country use those high profile, sexy, violent, dangerous issues to headline their cause, while they're actually prosecuting many hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of other young men, women, and children for far less significant issues. And I guess that's as it should be. It's marketing, really, is what it amounts to. They could cut deals with those people in their sleep, and it would save the taxpayers money, and it would save a whole lot of court time and investigators' times, because those people know they're caught and they know they're criminals, these high-profile cases. And getting a deal out of them would not be hard in many cases, but that wouldn't be sexy, and then the local prosecutors' offices around the country wouldn't have an opportunity to reinforce our community fears about crime and to get reelected and to secure more money for their ultimate mission, which is to grow their business so that they have job security. It's not a foreign concept. I think we all understand that. So, but my caution to you is, and how it relates to this little section on truth in justice, is that I would say be careful what you see. What you see is not necessarily the truth. I'm not giving a pass to people who commit heinous crimes by any stretch. There are people that do that, and they need to be removed from society. And if we need a little taste of how heinous and ugly those things were as a reminder, perhaps that's not such a bad thing. But in general, the basis of American criminal justice is supposed to be that an American citizen with the guaranteed right of liberty is presumed innocent under the law until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, I'm guilty of this, and I've sat in rooms, living rooms and family rooms for decades with family and friends, and seen things. Oh, they're guilty. Oh, lock them up. I used to be so boldly arrogant that I used to say to friends and family infrequently. I mean, it wasn't my mission, but I would say, I so believe in the death penalty, I'd pull the switch for free. And my God, what a horrible thing to even think or say. At 50, that looks a whole lot different than at 20, 30, even 35. About 35, I started to change due to some educational issues and some life issues unrelated to why we're here today. But and I no longer feel that way. But But just the same, I'm admitting and acknowledging that I'm guilty of looking at people that I don't know and who have and absorbing the marketing that we're given about them and instantly forming a judgment that they're guilty or innocent. Or, well, usually guilty. The DA doesn't waste much time trying to help people who are innocent be innocent. They don't even typically apologize or even acknowledge that they made a mistake when the tens of thousands, when the many hundreds of innocents of the population of tens of thousands who are in prison are exonerated. And he didn't apologize to me when I was acquitted either, my DA, of course, because they can't admit when they're wrong. They don't ever want to be wrong because it compromises their security and their next election and their efficiency or the perception of their efficiency, but whatever. And so I'm going to give you a story out of part 3 of my book. It's one of a dozen at least, and I'm not going to be sharing them all. I would love for you to go over and subscribe and get the build up to these stories, because there's a lot of background and in context, in the total context of my case, they're very important. But this one is kind of funny and sad and paints a clear picture of the point that I'm trying to make here. So in California, at least, defendants have the right to have a preliminary hearing. It's I don't know if it's required exactly. I think it's absolutely required. But in any case, defendants they'll have an arraignment usually within 72 hours, with some exceptions, and then the next milestone on their journey through the system of prosecution is the preliminary hearing. And at the preliminary hearing, the DA is required to present enough evidence to the judge to hold the accused over for trial. And there are rules governing the preliminary hearing. There are rules governing evidence and obligations and what the defenses can do and what the prosecution has to do and so forth. In my case, as I've stated in numerous places, because there was no crime at all, typically there at least is a crime, and then sometimes innocent people are charged with and convicted for a crime, but I would wager that by far and away most of the time the people that are convicted of the crime did it. I think the system is that effective. It just makes too many mistakes. That's my point, and it certainly made a mistake in my case. An intentional mistake is my opinion, but so we were planning to go to the prelim, and as I said, because there was actually no crime that occurred at all, the DA was put in a position of having to create this very complex story, and the best way to convict someone who's innocent, when you know they're innocent, when you've trumped up a crime, is to throw as much crap against the wall as you can. Because people are fallible. You know, why do you think commercials during the Super Bowl for 30 seconds are millions of dollars, or well over $1 million, you know, whatever it is today? It's because marketing works. We don't like to think it does. We all like to think we're independent. I make my own decisions while you pour Tide in your, or whatever, I'm sorry, Tide, but you know what I mean. What you use your favorite laundry soap, and you buy the same brand of milk, and you buy the same pack of cigarettes that you've always smoked, or the same brand of beer. I only drink, you know, Rainier beer, or whatever it might be. It's because marketing works and propaganda works to some degree. We are independent agents, but we're influenced by the stuff around us. And DAs understand that. And so they use these same techniques when they know somebody is guilty, because it helps them secure a conviction. But then they use these same techniques when someone is innocent and they don't know, or when someone's innocent but perhaps is a political target like I was, and they need to find a conviction out of nothing to hide whatever it is that they're trying to hide from. And in my book, I explain what it is they were trying to hide from. I'm not going to go into that here. But so we go to the preliminary hearing, and the DA called, I think, 3 total witnesses, 2 or 3, And one of them was a financial expert, ironically, a financial expert who was never qualified as a financial expert. And that's interesting unto itself. But this financial expert had created these spreadsheets, and they tore my life apart from stem to stern. My private emails, my private banking, all my work stuff, and so on and so forth. And to gather enough evidence to throw against the wall. And since they didn't have a crime, and since there was no hard evidence of an actual crime in fact, his job was to just smear me and paint me as this person who was likely to have committed these heinous white-collar crimes that he was alleging. And so how did he do this? Well, he had these spreadsheets, and he was showing cash in and cash out, and my travel and the decisions that I'd made. And you can not like the decisions I made with my money. That's your prerogative. I decided long ago that I was going to enjoy life, and so I made decisions with my money that you may not agree with. You may be very conservative and think that you should stash all your money away, and I don't disagree with that. But my point is, it's not my role to judge you for doing that, and it was not the district attorney's role nor the public's role to judge me for the way I chose to spend my money. Well, I'll get into that later. I'll make a note and make a post on that, because I think actually it's fairly important, but it's not relevant to this point. So, or I don't have enough room here to weave in its relevance, really is the better way to put it. But so the DA, this financial expert, who was not an expert, but who was allowed to be an expert in my trial, created these documents. Now, when my lawyers were cross-examining her during the prelim, she let it slip that there were all of these emails that she had participated in between her and Sarah Delaney, the Edward Barbarian's #1 investigator, who I've mentioned in other places and is in my book. And my lawyers objected immediately and said, wait a minute, if there are all these emails, we're entitled to see those. As a matter of fact, not entitled, but it's our right. And not only is it our right, but the DA failed by not disclosing those to us. That's called prosecutor misconduct. As much as DAs like to think that they rule the roost and can do anything they want, some DAs, not all, and hopefully not most, but many, unfortunately, as long as, even though they think that they're the kings of their castle and they can do whatever higher means is necessary to secure a conviction, however unrighteous, they still have to follow the rules. And when they break the rules, that's illegal. And so by hiding those records from us and not disclosing those to my defense, they practiced corruption. And boy, when my lawyers confronted this witness and dug out that there were these emails, you could just see Mr. Barbarian. I mean, if you ever seen somebody's countenance change and you knew for a fact that the countenance was changing, it's pretty profound, isn't it? And so, I mean, his neck was turning red and he didn't move. And at one point, when after the judge had made the decision that I'm about to explain, I mean, he looked over at Sarah Delaney like, if looks could kill, like, what position did you just put us in? So the judge, of course, stopped the hearing immediately, and I was taken back into my lovely little orange safety cell behind the nice cultured wood walls. And then whatever transpired over the next 45 minutes, I wasn't there to witness. And then I was brought back to continue the prelim, and my lawyers were giddy. One of my lawyers is going through these emails, underlining stuff, and my other lawyer's elbowing me, going, we got him, And that same scene replayed 4, 5, 6, 7, I lost count, 7, 8 times throughout the course of my trial. But so we were looking through the emails, and it was fascinating because Sarah Delaney, the person responsible for the evidence that was used to try to convict me, and this financial expert were emailing back and forth about the spreadsheets, which were blown up into large documents and used in trial later. And this financial expert was telling Sarah Delaney that don't worry, this is not a quote, this is paraphrased, but I will quote the word that was used. She said, don't worry, we can take these numbers and we can make them look however you want. And then she said, we can make them look like a, quote, masterpiece. We can take this data, which has zero sign of any illegal activity, zero. There was not one single piece of evidence in the record that showed a crime in fact, but due to modern technology and fancy spreadsheet work and a little bit of intelligence, this woman had said boldly in an email to her employer, who was prosecuting me, that didn't matter, she could take this evidence and make it look, she could paint, I think she said she could paint any picture that they wanted. And then, quote unquote, she could make it look like a, quote, masterpiece. So there you have it. There really is, that is one single story of more than a dozen that I share in part 3 of my book that really epitomizes the heart and the intent of some district attorney's offices around this country, in particular the Marin County District Attorney Ed Berberian and his office. And so that is an example of the absence of truth being displayed, or the revelation, I guess, of truth coming out accidentally in terms of the DA's perspective, fortunately in terms of our perspective. And so I hope that you understand the meaning of that. That's very significant, that somebody would hide the information in the first place, and secondly, that the information would be so blatantly corrupt as to suggest those things. I hope you have a great morning. Thank you very much. My name is Brett. Have a good day.